Welcome back. If you've clicked on this video, then I'm assuming you've already done part 1 of the tutorial. If not, then you need to go and do that first. I'll pop a link up on the screen. Still here? Then I guess you've done part 1, which means that you now have a house with walls and doorways, and you're ready to do some decorating and put the windows in. So let's get on with it. So the first thing that we need to do in SketchUp is to head over to the Home panel and just find and open the house that you saved last time. And we're actually going to start by doing the decorating. So we're going to switch over to the Bucket tool. That's B on the keyboard. It's this one over here. And now when you go to the Bucket tool, it automatically opens up the Materials section from this side panel over here. And you can see we've got some kind of dull colours to start with. If you go onto the Browse button, you'll find there's some more options in here. So what we want to do is choose an appropriate material for our house. So starting with the outside, let's go to brick. I think I'm just going to choose this one right here, and it's as simple as clicking. So you're going to want to go around every part of your house. I'm just going to close this panel here so it's out of the way. Colouring in any bits that you want to have brick textures. This includes maybe the floor bit down here. Remember, you can zoom in, scroll in to do this. You can switch to the Orbit tool, spin round, back to the Bucket tool, that's B on the keyboard, remember. You can also push down the wheel on your mouse to go straight into the Orbit tool, which is a very handy shortcut. So head all the way around. You want bricks all the way around the outside, like that. And then for the inside, you've got some options. Let's go back to the, let's bring this panel back out. I'm going to close the brick bit. You could just go to colours and choose yourself a nice colour. And it's a good idea to have all the walls in one particular room the same colour. However, if I close that section, there is one called carpets and wallpaper. They are a bit naff, it's a limited selection. Unfortunately, you can't load up your own ones, but you could, if you wanted to, have a little play with those as well. So what you want to do is go around your whole house, putting any colours, decorations in that you want. And I'm going to stop and do that now, so see you in a moment. So there you go, I've finished doing my decorating. I did say in the last video that I'm not an interior designer, and I think that's obvious looking at this, but it's done. Now, before we start making our first window, this would be a good time to just clean this up and get rid of all of the guidelines that are left over from the doorways that we made. Now I could go around with the eraser, clicking each and every one to delete them like that, which is fine. But there is a faster way. If you head over here and open up this panel here, there's an option for delete all guides. There we go. Let's close that. Nice and simple. Right, so let's make our first window. I'm just going to use the Orbit tool with Shift held down to move over here. I'm going to use this empty space right here to create my window. Into the Rectangle tool, single click, and for my window, I want this to be 2 meters long, and the width of the window, or the depth of the window, wants to be the same as the depth of the walls in the house, which, if you remember, was 0.15 or 15 centimeters. So that's going to be 2, 0.15. There we go. And I shall use the Push-Pull tool. I want to pull that up, let go of the mouse, 1.5 meters high. So that's the basic size and shape of the window. What I'm now going to do is create a kind of frame around the outside, and I'm also going to divide it so that this is going to be 3 windows. So the best way to do this is to make use of the Offset tool. Now we used the Offset tool when we first wanted to make the walls of the house. So we'd done the floor and we wanted to create that wall going all the way around the outside. So F on the keyboard, single click, and I want that frame to be just 5 centimeters from the edge. So if I look down the bottom, I can see I can actually quite happily click and get 0.05, or I could type it in. There we go. Now it's time to use the tape measure tool so that I can lay out where the middle parts of the frame are going to go. So I'm going to go to the outside edge, I'm going to click, and I'm going to come in by 0.5. That's half a meter. And then from this guide, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come across, and I want this to be 0.05, so it's the same as this outside frame was. Same thing on this side. Click, bring the mouse in, 0.5, half a meter, and then from this one, click, bring the mouse in, 0.05, which is 5 centimeters. And now I can quite easily use my rectangle tool to fill that in with a rectangle. Same thing here. Fill it in with a rectangle. And now is the clever bit. I can use my push-pull tool to push this face through until it touches the other side. There we go. And then same with this one, and same with this one. There we go. So I've now created a basic window frame. I'm going to clean it up a little bit. Just use my eraser to get rid of these little lines that were created. And also, let's get rid of the guides as well, because we're done with them. There we go. Alright, now it's time to put in the windows. Now to do this, we first of all need to find the place where we want to start. So I'm just using the orbit tool and shift, and it's right in here, rectangle tool. You do need to zoom in to do this, because we need to make sure that we find the midpoint here between that corner and that corner, right here in the middle of the frame. And if you're zoomed out, it can be quite hard to find those. So make sure you're zoomed in, and then it's much easier. Okay, so I'm going to click to start my rectangle there. But I now need to move down to the opposite corner. So here's a little trick. The great thing about SketchUp is that you can switch between tools in the middle of using them. So I've already clicked to start drawing my rectangle. I can now switch to the orbit tool. Just zoom out a bit. Rotate round and find the opposite corner, which is this one right here. Back to the rectangle tool, and you'll see it remembers that I'm drawing a rectangle, so now I can find the opposite corner there and click to finish creating the window. Now, something to note at this point: if you ever find in SketchUp that you've drawn something and it's turned blue, what that actually means is that you're looking at the back of it. So if I just spin this round, you'll see that the other side is white. Now, it's not really a huge problem, not a problem at all. If it bothers you, you can go to the selection tool, select the face, right click, and you can choose reverse face. Okay, so I'm now going to repeat this process and make the other two windows. So back to my rectangle tool, zoom in, find that midpoint, start my rectangle, to the orbit tool, zoom out, spin round, zoom in on the opposite corner, back to the rectangle tool and click. And this time it's white, and that's because I started in the opposite corner. So let's spin this round. Now I want this point right down here. Rectangle, click to start, orbit tool, zoom in, rectangle tool, click. And there you have it, that's our finished window frame. But we're going to give it some textures so that it doesn't look like a boring white window when we slot it into the house. So we're going to do this the same way that we did before. But there's a little tip here. Go to your selection tool, so that's spacebar. So you know that we can select individual faces. You can also hold down the Shift key on the keyboard to select multiple faces. But handy little trick here. If you triple click, it will select all of the faces, like that. Now this is really useful because if you now go to your bucket tool and you choose a texture that you want, so scroll down, there is a wood section, then you'll find that when you click with the brush tool, the whole thing will get coloured at once. This will save you going all the way around clicking every individual part of the frame. So to colour the windows, I'm going to go back to the selection tool and just have a fresh selection. I'm going to select that one, and that one. And I'm going to go down. There is a section here for window covering. So this is if you want to have blinds, net curtains, that sort of thing. But if you go up, there is a glass section as well, glass and mirrors, and in here you'll find one that actually makes them see-through, like that. Now just a weird point here, that if you spin your window round, you'll notice that the back is still uncoloured in, it hasn't changed. So we want to make sure that's got a window on it as well. So I'm going to go back to my bucket tool and just make sure that the window is on both sides of the face. And there you have it, that's your finished window. But there's something very important we have to do with this window before we start cutting out a hole and putting it in the house. In SketchUp, when you put two objects together, they merge, they automatically join together. And that can be a very, very bad thing, especially when you want to be able to make lots of different windows and put them all over the parts of the house. So what we need to do is to make sure that this window is an object all on its own, separate from the house. It's easy to do. In fact, we can use that triple click method again. So triple click to get the whole window selected, right click and choose Make Group. And now that window is its own separate group, and we won't have the problem of the window kind of gluing to the house. Okay. So that's the window done. Now it's time to make a hole in the house and put the window in. So let's go over to this wall right here. Now I want my window to be perfectly centered, so I'm going to use the same technique that I used in the previous video for the doorways. So over to the tape measure tool, I'm going to click that edge there and then come up here to find the center point. There it is. So now I've got a guide right down the center. I'm going to click that one and move across half the length of my window, so that's going to be 1 meter. And then I want to make sure that all my windows are the same height from the top of the wall. So I'm going to click the top of the wall here and come down by 0.5, half a meter. And now I've got everything that I need to draw the rectangle to cut a hole in the wall. So over to the rectangle tool, I'm going to click that intersection just there. And I'm going to let go of the mouse and type in the correct dimensions, which is 2, 1.5. That's exactly the same size as we used for the window. Now I can go to the push-pull tool, click, push it through to the other side, there it is. And I've now cut a hole in the wall. Now, at this point, we're ready to move the window into the hole in the wall. Bring the window into frame. Over to the Move tool. Now the best way to work with the Move tool is to use corners of objects. You can select faces and work with that way, but it's just not advised. It's really not advised. It makes it very difficult to kind of put things where you want them. It's like, oh, where's it going to go? Where's it going to go? Put that back. Much, much better to grab a corner. So if I grab this corner here, I can now switch to the Orbit tool, look around a bit, zoom in, back to the Move tool, and it's that point right there that I need it to snap to. Click, and we're done. There we go. I've just put that window into the hole in the house. I'm now going to create another hole so that I can show you how to duplicate and rotate this window for the other side of the house. So let's go to the Orbit tool, spin round. I want another window right here. So to start with, same process as before. Tape measure tool, click from that edge up to the top, find the midpoint, there it is. And then from this one, go across by half the length of the window, that's 1 meter. And then I need a guide from the top down by half a meter, 0.5. Now I can go to the rectangle tool, click the intersection, let go and type in 2, 1.5. Use the push-pull tool, push that through, and there we go. Orbit tool, let's spin round. So now what I need to do is duplicate the window that we've already created. Now I need to be careful with the Move tool here. I need to make sure that it is the window that's selected, because if I come down to this point here, it might look like I'm about to grab the window and move it, but in fact it's the corner of the building. If I click, you see I'm moving that. There, not good at all. So it's a good idea to go to the Selection tool, spacebar, click the window so it's selected, and then go to the Move tool. Now I know that when I click this corner here, it's the window that I've grabbed. But I don't actually want to move this window, I like it where it is, so what I need to do is switch it into duplicate mode. So if you look at the bottom of my screen right now, you can see it says Control equals toggle copy. On a Mac I think it's the Alt key. So if I tap Control, you'll see that I'm now duplicating instead. So I'm just going to move this window over here out of the way. Just move it across a bit. And of course now you can see there's another problem. That this window is the wrong orientation. I need to be able to rotate it 90 degrees so that it's going to fit in that hole right there. So to do this we need to use the Rotate tool. It lives over here in the same place as the Move tool. The shortcut is Q on the keyboard. and you'll see we've now got this protractor. Now what I need to do is to click the point on the window that I want to use as a pivot point, and I'm going to use this corner right here. But I also need to make sure that when I click, that the protractor is on the correct axis, to make sure that I'm rotating it in the right way. I don't want to be rotating it on that axis there, or that axis there. It needs to be flat on the ground like that. So I'm going to click the corner now. So I've selected that as my pivot point. Now what I'm going to do is select the point that I actually want to grab and move, which is going to be this opposite corner. So now I click that one, and you can see that I can now pivot like that. And if you look at the bottom right of the screen, you can see it's showing me the angle, and it should snap when I get to 90. There we go. So you don't normally have to type it in if you want nice, sensible angles, but you could type in 90 degrees. I'm just going to click. There we go. Now back to the move tool, and all I've got to do is, just like I did before, click one corner, and then move that to the corresponding corner on the building. There we go. So that's now duplicated, rotated, and put into the wall. Alright, I'm going to do one more on the other side of the building, and then I'm going to leave you to finish putting windows all the way around. So let's rotate this around. Okay, so to put the window on this side, I want to make sure that it's centered, but this isn't going to be as straightforward because the center of this face here is actually over here somewhere. But I want to put it on the center here. So there's a few ways that I could do this, but I think the easiest way is probably for me to just spin round and to put my guides on the inside instead. So now I can easily find the center between that edge and that edge. So tape measure tool, click the edge up to the top to get the midpoint. There it is. From this I can now go across half the length, which was 1 meter, and then from the top I want to come down by 0.5 like that. Rectangle tool, single click, let go 2, 1.5, push pull tool, push it through. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to make another copy of this window here. Remember, selection tool, select the window first. Move tool. Now this time I'm going to be a bit more clever about it. I'm going to grab that corner there, hit Control, and move it straight over to there like that. So it's already in the right place. And now Q for the rotate tool, click that corner. I want to make sure that I'm on the right axis, that one. Click, click, 90 degrees, click. So I actually rotated it in place while it was already where I want it to be in the building. And there you go. So I'm now going to skip forwards to the point where I've done windows all around the house. I'll see you in a minute. And there you have it. That's your finished building with decorations and windows. Now if you decide that you want to have some of your windows with curtains, for example, all you need to do, go to the selection tool, double click one of your windows. That's how you go in and edit a grouped object. And now I can easily select the faces inside there. So I'm going to select the window, hold shift, get all 3 faces. And now I can go back to the bucket tool, and I'm going to go down to the window coverings, and I think I might go for net curtains on this one. So that's all 3 of those done, but on the inside still that window texture, so you just need to click to make sure it's on both sides of the window. Back to the spacebar, click away, and there you go. Now I've got a window with net curtains. Now as a final addition to your building, you could have a little play around with the 3D warehouse. So if you click on this icon over here, you can actually search for 3D models that other people have made. So I could type in chair, for example, and you'll see all kinds of models that other people have created. You want to keep an eye on the size. I'd say anything bigger than a megabyte you want to be wary of, because the more things you drag in, the more likely it is to start slowing down. But something like this chair here looks good, so all you've got to do is click it, and there we go. You see I've now got this chair, and I can simply place it in my building somewhere. I'm then going to zoom in. Let's just hide this panel, and I can just work with the move tool to position it wherever I want it to be in my house. So why not see if you can furnish your house as well? Well, there you go, your finished house made entirely in SketchUp. Why not see if you can use your skills to make a few more houses? Maybe make the whole street. Well, if you enjoyed this video, please drop a comment down below and keep an eye out for my next series where I'll be showing you how to make a website from start to finish. See you then.